Hi there, this is Miss Drew with Defiant Soil and Water Conservation District. If you don't know who I am the Education and Outreach Coordinator here, and this is video 1 of our 10-part series, the Summer Stewardship Series. Before I get started on our first subject, I want to go over the word stewardship. It goes right along with the word conservation. Conservation is the mindful decisions that we make to benefit our natural resources. Stewardship is acting out those decisions. So the act of benefiting our natural resources that not only are good for us, but it's good for wildlife as well. So our first topic is on Ohio native wildlife. Native is a word that I use because all these animals were here before settlement time. Settlement time meaning that's when humans came in and developed the land for our own purposes. But the wildlife that existed before we were here have these special powers of survival that have adapted over time. And that's something that we call adaptation. And we'll talk about a few of those as we go along. Our first animal is the mink. The mink is actually a sought after fur bearer. Hunters and trappers really enjoy catching this little guy because it's such a challenge, but has this soft, dense fur. They are also part of the skunk family, and that's because they contain a special sac where they use the same kind of defense mechanism that a skunk would use to spray a certain odor. These guys are also carnivores as well, meaning that they hunt to eat other animals. You can see them scampering around on riversides and streams. They love the running water areas. Our second animal is the gray fox. It is one of 3 wild canine breeds in Ohio, and the smallest of them all. The largest is the coyote, and the second largest is the red fox. These guys had larger populations before the land developed into more agricultural and residential areas for humans. And they survive better in places that are forested. They have better camouflage there to protect themselves from predators. And they also are the only wild canine breed that is able to climb trees. Way cool. And our third animal is the eastern cottontail rabbit. A pair of rabbits over the course of 5 years can produce up to 350,000 babies. That's a lot of babies. This guy does not hibernate either. So over the course of winter, he does not sleep. He's awake. He has a normal routine and finds twigs and branches and things to eat, and he takes them down into a burrow. They are very smart in the way of finding hidden pathways to where they're trying to get. So brushy areas, they find those pathways leading to where they want to go. So they try to remain hidden, especially since in winter they have these brown coats that stick out over the landscape of the snow. So they're not able to camouflage themselves from whoever wants to eat them. And last but not least, it's probably one of my favorite ones to talk about is the American beaver. So the American beaver lives in a den that he or she creates on riversides and maybe sometimes even lakes too. These dens are only accessible underwater, so they have a tunnel or entrance underwater. And they keep it pretty warm in this den that they pack with twigs and mud and they create a dam that slows down the water to protect their home as well. So the den and dam are created out of sticks and logs that they cut down with their teeth. Their teeth are very strong, and a beaver's teeth will grow throughout its lifetime. So when it eats those oaks and maples and cuts them down, it actually grinds down the teeth just short enough that they're able to use them. Imagine if they weren't ground down and it grew and grew and grew, they would have very long teeth. It would be very uncomfortable for them. So that's also an adaptation that they developed over time to have strong teeth according to their diet and how they build their homes. They also have webbed feet. If you can see his back 2 feet are webbed, and that is good for swimming. He also has a long, flat tail that is very good for swimming, but also for communicating as well. He can slap that against the water and make a very loud noise, and that is not only to ward off any predators, but to also warn the other beavers that something is threatening and they should run for cover. Underneath his tail, he also has an oil gland that secretes oil, and he's able to take that oil and rub it all over himself, all over his very thick, dense fur to create a waterproofing effect. So it keeps him warm when he's in and out of the water, especially during those colder times of the year. So he has strong teeth, webbed feet, a cool tail, and he basically is waterproof. And one more thing about the beaver, unlike us, he has built-in goggles. So like you and me, we go in the water and we use goggles to protect our eyes, and it also allows us to see better underwater. Well, he has built-in goggles. He has an extra set of eyelids that are completely clear. So he adapted that over time to protect his eyes, and he also has a flap in his throat and flaps in his ears that are able to close so he can protect his ears and then also not suck down a bunch of water as he carries branches in his mouth underwater. So the beaver is probably the coolest animal. And before I leave you today, I just want to go over what predator and prey are. I mentioned that throughout this video, but a predator is one that hunts other animals for food, and prey is those that are being hunted for food. But one thing to mention, that an animal can be both a predator and prey. An example of that is our mink. A mink is a carnivore, meaning that he hunts and eats other animals' meat, and he also is prey to larger animals that are up the food chain. And like I said, this is our first out of 10 videos for the summer, and each week we will have different topics. If you want to know about any other animals or have any questions, please comment below. But stay tuned for more, and I will see you next week.